Welcome in. It is another NFL preview here on Sports by the Book, and today we go to the heart of Texas, Houston, for the two-time defending champion in the AFC South, the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud, D'Amico Ryans, Alex White is beside me. I'm Jeff Parles. Thrilled to be with you as always here on the previews. And Alex, again, year 3 for CJ Stroud and Ryans. More expectations down in H-Town.
Yeah, and you could say that they didn't really meet expectations last year, even though they did win the division for a second year in a row. Now trying to make it 3 in a row for D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud. Can one in the division? The Colts, the Titans, the Jags actually challenge them this year? I don't know. We'll see. Plus the crossover in the schedule is pretty tough, but it all begins with week 1. Week 1 lines are already out across the city of Las Vegas, wherever you get your lines. Here at the South Point, if you're getting 2.5 with the Texans, they are playing the Rams week 1, or you can jump in here on our jackpot parlay card at the South Point. $5, just pick the winner. You can fill out as many as you want for your chance to win $25,000. As I mentioned, tough matchup to go. We'll go through the whole schedule, the roster changes, everything on this preview of the Texans.
Well, we'll hit it all, and we'll start with the AFC South overview yet again. As you see on the bottom of your screen, Texans 2.5-point dogs against the Rams at the time of this recording. Again, questions about Matthew Stafford's back may play a role in that one. But looking at the AFC South as a whole, Texans highest win total by 2 wins. 9.5 is the number on Houston. They are minus 150 to make the postseason yet again. They're even money to win the division for the 3rd consecutive year in this Stroud-Ryans era. 20-1 to win the AFC, 40-1 to win it all. And Alex, again, it's not a big surprise when you have the best quarterback in the division and arguably, and you know what, I'll say it, he is the best coach in the division at the moment. It all depends on what you think of Steichen in Indianapolis. But a team that has a lot of talent, again, a high-end wide receiver, a very interesting-looking running back room. But all these numbers check out to me here, Alex.
I mean, even money, you feel like you're not getting a huge bargain here, but Houston did go 5-1 just against division opponents alone last year. So it is kind of their division to be taken. Of course, the Jags just won it 3 years ago. That feels like a long time ago with Trevor Lawrence. But, I mean, they're the best. There are some question marks, though, when it comes to their roster. And they tried to do an overhaul, especially on the O-line, and make some changes. By far the best defense, though, Houston. So they could actually compete with some of the best in the league. So that's why you're seeing these prices here. And I do agree with it. I do believe that they are the best team in this division. Now, is everything going to fall that way? Not necessarily, because the crossover, AFC West, NFC West, plus they have the Bills and the Ravens on their schedule this year. So that could make things a little more interesting if one of these other teams can rattle off a few extra wins.
Yeah, first place schedule. And if you don't handle your business within the division like they did a year ago, again, they won 10 games last year. Half of their wins came in division. They were 5-6 against everyone else, like Alex just pointed out. You look at the schedule. A lot of these teams I've been saying we're going to learn early. This is one of the few teams that I'm not so certain we're going to learn early, because those first 5 games, at least on paper, it's a very hard handicap right down for week 1, because what version of Matthew Stafford, if Matthew Stafford's actually even able to play, there is a little bit of worry on that with his back. What if it is Jimmy Garoppolo who starts week 1 for the Rams? That's a little bit of a different handicap. And that kind of changes the tune of what the first 5 games are. Coin flip game against the Bucs. At home. Houston will be favored, but that's a coin flip game. At Jacksonville, a team they have handled very well in recent memory. A game against the rookie quarterback week 4, and then Baltimore before going into the bye. Alex, I think there's an array of what Houston could do here. I could see them go starting as poorly as 1-4 if things go really poorly. I could also see them starting 4-1. With the only loss being week 5 in Baltimore. It is a wide early range before the bye week.
See, those first 5, I'm a little bit tighter than you. I've got them going 3-2, but I could definitely see a 2-3 start. I have them a dog in 3 of them. You said that they'd be favored over the Bucs at home. I kind of think that they might be a small dog there with Tampa Bay coming into town and bringing most of their team back from last year. Now, as I mentioned, Houston, better defense, and they will versus a lot of these teams, including the Rams. But then you have the quarterback position where these teams have veterans. And then it gets easier against their own division foes. But you're right, we could it could sway, but 3-2. I got them starting off pretty good before the bye.
Yeah, go 3-2. You're probably well on course to win this division. I think even 2-3 with wins against Jacksonville and Tennessee might be good enough to have you roll on the course to win the division yet again. Middle of the schedule, a lot of home games mixed in there with that 3-game homestand against San Francisco, Denver, and Jacksonville. Obviously, 2 teams, Broncos in the playoffs a year ago. San Francisco missed the playoffs a year ago, but again, a team that is expected to be well back in the mix here in 2025. And then you see after you get through that stretch in Tennessee in week 11 on the road, the opponents get more difficult, but the way the sequencing goes may not be the worst for Houston.
This is where I think it gets really tough here, because I really am a believer in that AFC West, and you brought up the Broncos, and yeah, they are pretty fortunate to get him at home. I just think Sean Payton's team's going to be tough, even traveling. So I think it's going to be a pretty even year for them in the sense of the next 6, I've got them going 3-3 again, right? And then the last 6, I've got them going 3-3 there too. And you could flip-flop a few here and there, but I pretty much fall right there at 9 wins. And that is where the bookmakers have them juiced to the under slightly at -115. But I don't know. It could be tougher than it looks for this Houston's team. And a lot is going to depend on how those changes on the roster actually play out.
Well, let's look at those changes on the roster right now. Go to the offensive side of the ball. Of course, what's not changing? C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins. Still going to be one of the most formidable QB wide receiver tandems in the NFL. Nico Collins is as low as 8-1 to lead the league in receiving yards. And look, when Nico Collins has been on the field the last 2 years, he's been as good as even the Jamar Chases and the Justin Jeffersons of the world. He was every bit as good as them a year ago. He missed about a month with injury. So that's the biggest question mark on the Nico Collins end of things. But then once you get behind Nico Collins, that's where things get a little more cloudy for this Texans team.
Well, let's dive into Nico Collins a little bit more here. I am very fascinated. I thought I would be getting more than 8-1. I was hoping for double digits here, but I do think that bet is intriguing. But again, not really at that number. 1,000 yards last year. He's about 22nd in the league. And of course, Jamar Chase led that with over 1,700. The year before, though, Nico Collins did have almost 1,300. And of course, now Tank Dell, I don't think we're going to see him for the entire year with those multiple injuries to the knee. Stephon Diggs is going to the Patriots. And we've got a couple young wide receivers going behind him, as you were getting to, a pair from Iowa State that I do think could help them out. But I think Nico Collins is a definite wide receiver 1. I'm hearing multiple people talk about him. You're right. In the category with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and especially when it comes to fantasy football, being a really good steal, getting them a little bit later.
So Dell, you mentioned, of course, that horrible knee injury in Kansas City a year ago, the week before Christmas. He's not, it would be a stunner if he suited up at all this year. You mentioned the 2 Iowa State guys, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, their 2nd and 3rd round picks, respectively. They also brought in veterans, Christian Kirk, got him from Jacksonville. Justin Watson, of course, has been catching passes from Patrick Mahomes over the last few years. They also bring in Braxton Berrios from Miami as well. Xavier Hutchinson, John Mechie are still on the roster. So there are a lot of guys behind Collins. It's just a matter of how is that depth chart going to sort itself out through the next month before the season, and then how is it going to sort itself out when the games start counting? So it's, like I said, it's cloudy behind him in the receiving room. There's talent there. It's not like, oh, there's guys who can't play. No, there's guys who can play. It's just a matter of how will the depth chart sort itself out going into the season. The running back room, I want to touch on here, Alex.
Let's go to tight ends first. Let's keep it with the catching from C.J. Stroud, because it is interesting. And thinking about it, you're talking about it being cloudy, and I agree, it definitely is. But you got to imagine it's going to be better than last year. I feel like they had some of the worst luck, and people just saw San Francisco with the injury bug. I mean, the Texans, they got through a lot. And even looking at the tight ends, and Dalton Schultz hasn't really played out. He had some missed blocks and drop passes, and we're expecting him to take another step forward. But both of the tight ends behind him, with Cade Stover, 4th round pick the year before, he had a shoulder surgery, and then even Brevin Jordan, Didn't get to play fully because of an ACL. So it wasn't just the wide receivers, it was the tight ends as well. So now we're going to see what happens with the new wide receivers, some veterans coming in, some new draft picks, because they did draft a lot of offense again, and then the tight end room as well.
Yeah, Schultz, of course, leads the tight end group. Stover, Brevin Jordan, Irv Smith behind him. Again, relatively solid depth. It's just a matter of, again, what depth shows up. That is the big question with at least the pass catchers to that running back room, which Joe Mixon is still nursing a foot injury. Nick Chubb hasn't played since 2023. That was an offseason acquisition. Of course, Cleveland didn't bring him back. Houston signs him. Dameon Pierce is still there, even though he has sort of been a forgotten piece over the last year plus now after bursting onto the scene 2 years ago. They also used draft capital on Woody Marks out of USC. So another guy who, again, in college, Marks was super, super talented when you saw him at USC and Mississippi State in his college career. It all comes down to, is Joe Mixon going to be healthy week 1? We don't know. We're not certain if Joe Mixon's going to be ready. And if he's not, all right, if Nick Chubb is fully ready, what version of Nick Chubb are we getting? Can Woody Marks make a mark on this team and make the roster? And same deal with Pierce. It's a while, and Agumbalale is still there as well. Again, there are pieces. It's just cloudy. It's just cloudy of what this is going to be because of the Mixon foot injury, which seems to be a lot more of an unknown than we would have liked at this point of the training camp.
Well, and we've talked about age and running backs in previous previews, and Joe Mixon is getting up there. But he has had 5 years of 1,000+ rushing yards. Last year had 11 touchdowns for this team and over 1,000 rushing yards. So he can be really good. But then when you add the age and the miles, especially, and Nick Chubb too, and then also the injuries, it is very scary. And I think Woody Marks will be more of a third down, right, that they bring in. So he's not really going to be able to step in for one of those two if anything else were to happen. But of course, they aren't just making changes on the field, right? A new OC comes in because they didn't like what was happening last year, and then changing the O-line coach as well. So an overhaul in the offensive line, because they definitely didn't feel that C.J. Stroud was getting enough protection there.
So Nick Cali comes in. He replaces Bobby Slowick, who was in head coaching consideration for the longest time. They thought he was going to be the hot new OC to get a head coaching job. He's back in San Francisco now as an assistant. So, and as you mentioned, that O-line as a whole is a new look now. The big acquisition this offseason is they go out and get Cam Robinson as a free agent. They signed Laken Tomlinson, who was a cap casualty 2 years ago. Jared Patterson, Titus Howard moves are still there, the interior center and right guard. And then Ariante Isuri, their second round pick, is going to more likely than not be the starting right tackle from day one. So again, that's 3 new linemen on an offensive line. Now last year, again, I didn't think was well coached. Plus got injured. Yep. So Stroud was running for his life basically the whole year, like a year ago, Alex.
And I'm sorry if you did already say it, but they did trade Laramie Tunsil, who was probably their best of that group. And now they brought in, like you said, some other veterans and a lot of guys that do have experience, but not necessarily superior experience, kind of just average. So trying to see how it'll all work out. But I agree with you. I don't think they were very well coached, did not make adjustments per opponent. So if that can at least change, I think that they could be much better. But I mean, really, with all of that happened last year, all the injuries, CJ Stroud, that you can say he may have regressed a little bit from year one, but of course, all of that around him played a factor. Their defense still stayed strong. And I do think that this defense is elite once again.
Well, let's go to the defensive side of the ball here, Alex, where it's led by former top 5 pick Will Anderson Jr., who is a stud. Any way you slice it, he's a stud. You could start considering him up with, again, there's really the big 5 for me with the pass rushers in this league. Garrett, Hutchinson, Parsons, Watt, Crosby. Guess who's number 6 now? Will Anderson. Nick Bosa is also in that group as well, but Will Anderson Jr. is going to have a gigantic year. And if he does, that's really also the path to keep the Texans defense at a high level. Of course, they have arguably the best corner in the NFL now in Derek Stingley.
Yep,
who
highest paid.
After Sauce beat him by $1 now, or $100,000,
Yes.
I should say. But regardless, same difference. Stingley, who again his rookie year just battled injuries like crazy, and now we see him as a high end corner. Lassiter last year in his rookie year was great as well. So Daniil Hunter.
Yep.
You have they go out and get CJ Gardner-Johnson, but there's big concern about an injury he suffered in training camp. So we might, again, that could be potentially losing him for an extended period of time, if not all of it, if that injury does come to fruition on what the early reports were. But this is still a defense with a lot of talent on it. Anderson, Hunter, and then those two big corners in Stingley and Lassiter at the back end, Alex.
I agree. I think those are two of the top corners for sure. And hopefully Gardner-Johnson is okay to play on the other side of Kalen Bullock. And you also have Jimmy Ward for depth there, and Jalen Petrie for nickel. So I like this defense a lot. Their numbers said it last year. They were second in the regular season in opponent yards allowed, and I think they can keep that going. Ended up third best in the AFC, sixth best in the league in passing yards allowed, second in interception. So just a really good, solid group, continuing under their DC in Matt Burke, and I think that they'll still be just as high end.
Keys for me for this Houston Texan team, it really just comes down to the cloudiness of the skill position players. Look, the O-line, it's hard to be as bad as they were a year ago. It's hard to be as injured as they were a year ago. You would hope, even with, again, trading their best O-lineman out, you would hope Houston's O-line is better. I just want to see how the depth behind Collins in the pass-catching game for the wide receivers works out. I want to see which running back grabs the bull by the horns. If it's Nick Chubb, he is going to have an argument at comeback player of the year at 12-1. He is going to have an argument. Now, it's going to be hard, as we've mentioned on other shows. It's going to be hard for anyone to beat Aiden Hutchinson if he comes back and plays at the level he played pre-broken leg. I understand that. But Chubb at 15-1, I mean, that's a significantly better bet than the J.J. McCarthy lunacy at 10-1 in this market. But 15-1 is not a horrible play. My concern with that is that we're never going to see the same version of Nick Chubb again, which would make a lot of sense. Aging running back coming off significant knee injury. And there's a real chance he ends up being the number 3 running back on this team.
That's where I was going to go with it.
So, again, tread carefully in this market. But in the end, I have Houston at 10-7. I have them repeating the exact same record they had a year ago, Alex. And I think they'll win the AFC South yet again and be an underdog in the home playoff game and probably win it because they get undervalued in that game. They got both of the last 2 years against Cleveland and LA.
Man, yeah, that was a really good finish of the season. Well, besides losing to the Chiefs, but a very convincing win over the Chargers that really nobody had them winning that one. I'm not as confident in Houston winning this division as I am with some of the other divisions and the teams that have been at the top. I think one of these three are going to surprise us. And of the three, I'm actually leaning more towards Tennessee the more that we get into it, just because I liked their defense. And if Cam Ward can step in. So my biggest concern with the Texans is that schedule and going up against the elite, right? I think that they are going to stumble against some of those AFC West teams, the Bills, the Ravens. It's just really taking that next step. Can they compete with the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, and those top-tier AFC teams? I'm not there yet. They could win this division again and sneak by. I've got them at 9-8, so it's right there, and that could be enough to win this division if those other three are pretty uncompetitive. But
yeah, you just mentioned it. They're not in the big three category. They're not even, to me, in the Denver, and yes, I know they smoked the Chargers in the postseason a year ago, but they're still not in the Charger, Bengal, Bronco area code. The Steelers, as we talked about on their preview, which is available now on the YouTube page, they have a wide range, which we break down on that preview.
Yeah.
If the Texans were in a different division, we would probably be even looking at a higher number than 20-1 to win the AFC title. They'd probably be where Miami and New England and Jacksonville are, which Jacksonville at 30-1 is still too short, but that's a different discussion for the Jacksonville preview. So, in the end, Alex, I think you and I are in agreement on this team where they take advantage, they're more likely than not will take advantage of a weak division yet again and get that home playoff game, and for what will be yet another year, probably playing in that first playoff game on a Saturday late afternoon on the East Coast, as they always are. Texans 40-1 to win the Lombardi if you want to go that route here at the South Point. All right, that's what we got for you here on the Houston Texans here on our preview for them here in the 2025 season. Of course, all the betting previews available on our YouTube page, Sports by the Book. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Our channel, Soundpoint Studio as well, for the best in sports betting across the internet. And of course, here on YouTube, you and I, Alex, are live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, noon Central Time, Monday through Friday, getting you ready for the best on Sports by the Book in sports betting all week long. She's Alex White. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again on the next team preview. This has been the Houston Texans here on our 2025 NFL previews on Sports by the Book, live as always from the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas.